Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm here with my cat Leia, and I thought I'd try my hand at another response video. As usual, I'm inspired by Steve Donahue. This time he's talking about professional book reviews. I can only give my opinion as an amateur reviewer. I don't think that's even an accurate term. I think it might be citizen reviewer. When I was in journalism school, the term citizen journalist was pretty popular for people just reporting from the streets without being part of an official organization. Well, what I mean to say is that I review everything that I read on GoodReads. One might ask if I'm actually reading and reviewing the books critically and objectively, or if it's just more of my opinion, and I'd say a little bit of all of that. Quick side tangent. Is it really possible to get away from the opinion part of reviews? I mean, there are professional reviewers who disagree with each other on books, and it doesn't always come down to one of them being a fraud. Anywho, my reviewing style has definitely changed over the years. When I started on GoodReads, it was definitely more of a thought dump. I'd ramble and I'd spoil everything in the book. Now I write more in the mindset of not giving away the entire plot. And I'm more thoughtful in general about what I want to convey and why. It might be that the reviews of books that I don't love are actually better than the ones that I love, because then I want to get into understanding the hows and whys of why it was written, and then I focus more on content and form. With books that I love, I usually gush about the characters. I don't have to love all of the characters per se. In fact, I'd rather that I didn't. But my favorite stories tend to portray human problems and emotions and psychology, and then intersect them with the ways of the world in ways that really resonate with me. Sometimes I add in little anecdotes. Usually they're completely subjective and personal, mostly about other books that I've read recently and how they're impacting my reading of the book that I'm reviewing. Sometimes my anecdotes are more topical on a current events stage. Like when I finished Human Acts by Han Kang, a book that's set in South Korea. In the news around that time, they were literally just electing a president who had some ties with the events that were portrayed in the story. I rarely dig deeper for review content beyond what I already know about the author or the subject. I write my reviews within an hour or so, and they're definitely not up to any professional standards. I write them because I feel compelled to write. I've been thinking for a while about my relationship to more professional reviews, reading them, I mean. I tend not to, generally, because I don't read a lot of front list. But I often do search for reviews, professional and citizen, after I've read a book, just to see where other people stand on it. Perhaps I should take the next step and be more aware of the reviewers who I consistently agree with. Sometimes I add books to my TBR list based on reviews from the Jewish Book Council website. These are non-professional reviewers, I believe, though they do have to get through a JBC application process. And I admit, when I read the reviews, I'm not really reading them for the review itself. I just want to know the subject matter of the book. It's like I'm using the review as jacket copies, specifically to assess said content. I do think those reviews can come off as a little clunky sometimes. For example, I'm going to read the review for Karen Tanabe's The Diplomat's Daughter, which is a book set in World War II around the internment camps in the USA for Japanese and German citizens. And then also it goes to Japan to look at European Jewish refugees there. This 7-paragraph review is basically just a plot synopsis. And at the end, the reviewer adds, "The Diplomat's Daughter provides great insights into the physical and emotional deprivations suffered by the characters, innocent teenagers, whom the war robbed of their carefree childhoods. Tanabe also illuminates the vagaries of daily life in the Jewish ghetto of Shanghai and in the internment camp in Texas in a way that affords the reader a clearer perspective of life away from the battlefields, but still very much impacted by the horrors of war." But again, this is enough for me because I just hear Jews in Shanghai and I'm on board for reading it. But overall, the review itself doesn't seem like anything special. I'll leave a link down below and you can make up your own mind. I've also been thinking about getting a subscription to my local paper's book section, so namely the Washington Post's Book World. Like so many others in this day and age, I think I've gotten a little too complacent with getting things for free. I follow the Book World editor Ron Charles on GoodReads, where he posts links to his professional reviews. He also does satirical video reviews called the Totally Hip Video Reviews, They're really funny, so I'll also leave a link to those. This week, he both real reviewed and parody reviewed the book Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin. It's inspired by the Monica Lewinsky scandal. And admittedly, I'm curious off the bat because Zevin also made her protagonist, like Lewinsky, an upper middle-class American Jew. And so I'm curious if her book will go into that cultural climate as well about that upbringing. But Ron, in his review, mostly focused on the issue of slut-shaming women. In his written review, which I've linked down below, he starts with anecdotes about the Lewinsky scandal and then Trump's election, and then a book of cultural criticism that was published earlier this year about how women's bodies can be weaponized and used against them. Then he gets into a quick summary of the plot in a colloquial style, and he assesses why the book works for him in a storytelling way. I mean to say that anyone can write a treatise about why slut-shaming is bad, but I believe that Ron Charles would want a story that would make us feel for the characters as comprehensive people in the world. I mean, maybe I'm just projecting on him because that's what I want. But here's a paragraph in that review which I believe speaks to that point. The most radical chapter, though, is constructed as a choose-your-own-adventure story. This sort of super-duper cleverness can start to feel like you're being force-fed 8 pounds of cotton candy, which makes Zevin's success all the more impressive. Her narration in the second person insists that we stop peering down at this young woman and begin instead to imagine ourselves as her. You have never been in love before, and so you don't know for certain if you are, she writes. He is not like anyone you've ever known. He is not like boys your age. The very grammar of these sentences reminds us of the element of empathy that's so often missing in our regard for people ruined by the scandals that amuse us. I've shifted my camera because my companions come back. Just another sign that this video has certainly rambled on for longer than I intended, just as the script did when I wrote it. So I'll end on a note about GoodReads reviews. I think GoodReads has a bad rap about just being a place where people can plop down star-rated reviews without justification. But it does seem to me like almost every book that I see on the site has several reviews that are at the top of the list. So here's my biggest pet peeve about good reviews. I hate reviewers who whine about a book being bad because the characters are unlikable. I mean, WTF, you're not inviting these people over for dinner. Why can't you tell me more objectively about why these people are unlikable and if it fits the story by way of how that person was raised or the time period they live in or grrr. I should probably start vetting GoodReads reviews as well. That about covers it for me now. I'd love to hear about your thoughts and relationship about book reviews. I am curious if there will be more videos on this topic because I know that Steve actually was inspired by another video and so many people watch him. And so thank you so much for getting this ball rolling. Had a lot of fun doing this. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.